This is the Coin It Podcast, sponsored by CoinCosmo.com. Have fun like a collector. Think like an investor. Whether you're just a hobbyist or looking for an alternative investment with rare coins, paper money, NFTs, or art, your host, Charles Jonath, is covering it all. Now your host, Charles Jonath.
We have Saul Teichman here, okay? Saul is a coin dealer. He's a researcher. He's an expert.
I'm not really a dealer.
You are, though.
I help a lot of dealers.
Well, you to some extent, you do deal. And then you are an expert in U.S. patterns, an expert in error coins. I mean, Saul's contributed to tons of books, Dave Bowers' books, the Judd book, including the 10th edition, United States Patterns, Red Book by Whitman Publishing, which is like the standard now for patterns. Jeff Garrett's Gold Book, and many more. Saul, it's an honor and it's a pleasure to have you here. I think, you're a real special guest that we have on the show, and I'm very happy to have you on here. I wanted to start this off by quoting one of your quotes in the book here, which I really, really love. And you say about patterns here, you say, patterns tell the story of what might have been. And I really love that quote because I think, these pieces give you an insight into the lab of the mint designers who design these coins that we see pretty much every day here, at least in the United States, when we're talking about U.S. patterns. So, I mean, what initially ignited your love for patterns?
Let's say we have to go back into the 1970s.
And that's okay. Let's do it.
So the good old days when in New York City, they used to have a coin show very often at the Sheraton hotels. Mm-hmm. On 56th Street and like 8th Avenue. They used to have a ton of coin shows there.
Did you grow up in the city or?
Yeah, I'm a lifelong Queens person. I've been in Queens my whole life.
Nice.
But they used to, but in the days when they actually had coin shows in the city, there was one gentleman, Julius Turoff, who used to do exhibitions of his collection there all the time, and he would make these nice displays with pattern coins, mostly pattern dollars, but other coins too. He collected a lot of other patterns as well, and his patterns eventually sold in a Bowers sale in 1994. But he used to display them. I thought they were neat. He had like a Gobrecht dollar in copper, or he had the schoolgirl dollar in silver, and a wash lady dollar in silver, and all these other ones. And I just thought they looked neater than the other ones.
They just they resonated with you for some reason.
Yeah, I always liked them. About that time, I bought my first Judd book, and that was before I was a teenager. I couldn't even afford the coins anyhow at the time.
And you just,
but I thought they were much more interesting than, I had, like normal kids, I like Lincoln pennies and put in albums and Mercury dimes and Roosevelt dimes. My father was a pharmacist, so I had, I always had access to the register where any silver coinage came in to pull it out and things like that. So yeah.
You go through all the coins probably, right?
Yeah, I used to look for rare day pennies and wheatbacks and pulling out silver dimes and quarters and halves. That back then in the 60s and stuff, you could get coins in circulation.
Yeah, so you could find stuff like that back then. That was the thing. Like that was the good old days when you could pull out stuff, change from your pocket and find something good. I feel like nowadays those opportunities are not really there. I know there are some rare mint errors that are more modern, but I don't really know much about the error market.
Well, it's a little different.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
Between patterns and errors, because very often coins that, especially what they call the wrong planchet errors, a lot of people thought that those were pattern coins. One of the things I did, when I got serious into patterns, is I started collecting all the old auction catalogs stuff from the 1800s and things like that, and they would call like a shield nickel on a rude planchet, on a rude copper planchet. That was the term they used, rude, not realizing it was actually struck on, it was a shield nickel on a penny. Wow. As opposed to being a pattern, but they all sold with the patterns.
That's interesting.
That's so if you look at an old Judd book, you'll find like one of the appendixes is has a thing on mint errors, because in the old days, a lot of those coins were mistaken for patterns. I didn't realize that because they were a small planchette because it was a mint error and not really a die trial or something like that.
Oh, that makes sense because I could totally see that because back then, that you can almost distinguish like if you're looking at those older coins now, it would be easy to mistaken them for a pattern, and actually it was an older error. That's interesting. I never really thought about that before.
And generally, in fact, the first error coin I bought was a shilled nickel on a penny.
Really?
It's actually very rare too. But that was the first one I actually bought.
How would you find those old auction books like that? Like, can you find them around the city at that time, or there was stores?
Most of it I did from buying auctions, from buying from lists. There were dealers. George Colby did, and Charles Davis. And I bought like an old Mickley catalog, and I started doing that. I started researching that. Then most of the work I do was researching how many things were. Where patterns came from. The Judd books and stuff list them. They didn't really tell where a lot of them came from, and some of them you do find in old auction catalogs. They're obscure sometimes, but and mostly so some coins get forgotten.
Yeah, it's true. Like it takes a lot of time to sort of be able to distinguish that stuff. I mean, you've been at this for years. You devoted a lot of time to research, I believe, right?
Yep, I helped Andrew Pollock when he was doing his pattern book, because I had a lot of pedigree information and things like that and other things. I track a lot of. I track things. I'm good at tracking.
Yeah.
How many there are?
That's great.
And what really came about is the Judd book essentially got out of date. So,
right.
The seventh edition of Judd book was like from the 1980s, and there wasn't another Judd book really till Whitman took it over in 2003 or thereabouts. So you had 20 years where there was no pattern book. So basically, a couple of collectors and the dealers decided how about making a pattern website. That's what really, what started a lot of that too. Is in the 1990s we created the USPatterns.com website. It was me, Andy Lustig, Alan Mayrick, who likes Tucson patterns, and Dave Cassell, who collected postage currency patterns, which are dimes that were being used to place, during the Civil War when they needed currency, essentially for stamps and stuff. They wanted to make cheaper coinage for mailing of letters and things. But we basically did. That's why what I did basically did is first thing I did is I took all the pattern books together and put all the cross references of all the Judd, the Judd and Adams and Wooden numbers and the Pollock numbers, and essentially cross reference them all, so you have some place to find all that. And then the trick was trying to get images of all the coins and writing up. Basically, it was like putting the Judd book online is what we tried to do.
Right. No, it's a wonderful website, and it seems like you guys keep it up to date too, relatively with the auctions and stuff like that. At this point, most of the time, it's really just putting things that are on putting up the auction prices that realized and things like that. Mm-hmm. If a new discovery comes up, we'll add it to the numbering systems and put it up there if we can. And sometimes it's just like getting better images of the coins. I went to all the museums that I could to try to get images of some of the coins that we didn't have, and the book, the website clearly has more images than any place else. There's very few patterns. I'm actually missing the actual pattern itself. Yeah, it's very informational. I mean, you can look up by Judd number and stuff there. I've been on it several times, and the cool thing is, like, I know you guys got a place up there to post like want lists and stuff like that if you need collections. And
we tried not to keep it commercial. We didn't want people buying and selling like you would on eBay or on some of these other sites.
Right.
It also helped in cutting out some of the expenses of getting some of the images from the sites. The museums, aren't crazy about commercial use of some of the images. So I think by keeping more or less for research, they get better pricing, get single use of it. So I can put them. Obviously, I can't block people from reusing them, but that's
sure, yeah.
But that's not as much of an issue. Even now, in the 90s, it was getting some of the images cost a lot more money. Today, museums themselves have their have the images on their own sites as is. So sometimes you link to theirs. So others will, like I said, I purchased a lot of Smithsonian ones, and the Durham Western Heritage Museum was nice. Connecticut State Library I got a few images from. The ANS was positive. All the dealers were positive. Stax, at the time, Bowers and Morena. superior heritage. They were, you know, they were more than willing to let us use the images from their auctions and stuff on the sites too. You know,
Well, I think it's good from a community perspective because it helps build up the people wanting to collect. You know, the more people are informed about collecting this stuff, I think it grows the little niche of patterns. I mean, it seems like it's a small little world, but these are incredible coins. I mean, they're very rare, and you know, it presents a lot of opportunities, I think, for people to collect. And I don't know, I think now maybe people are becoming more aware of collecting them in the broader sense, because usually, you know how it goes. It just everyone gravitates towards collecting type coins and stuff like that.
The prices are much higher now. So much. The thing that helps obviously right now is the Simson collection being, you know, a lot of it being sold is, you know, actually flooded the market for, you know, which is, you know, for the last 2 years, but it's great.
Yeah. So, you know what, actually I was going to ask you about that. So with the Simson collection coming online, I mean, what do you think about that generally? You think that's good for patterns? I think maybe it presents an opportunity to buy some of the coins that haven't been in the market for God knows how long.
You got to give you know, him credit and Legend Coins for what they did for one to find a lot of the coins. Some of these things hadn't been on the market. You know, he had copper Goldberg dolls from 1839 that hadn't been on the market for years. In fact, and I knew that, you know, Dr. Kareen, who collected Goldberg, they got 100 Goldberg dollars. The only ones who was really missing were those 39s. They were never offered to him in his lifetime. You know, and right now his collection was, you know, was given to the ANS, and they've sold a lot of duplicates and stuff, but they kept the core pieces from his collection. The only thing really that was missing were those 1839 coppers, really, you know, to complete a really, you know, neat set of those. You know, but basically all the rare Goldberg dollars in patterns were in two collections, Simpson's and his. You know, wow. By, you know, in the last 20 years after being, you know, separated for so long. To Mr. Simpson's credit, to collect 1,000 patterns, obviously I need a lot of money to do that today. Yeah. But he wasn't afraid to have duplicates and triplicates of, you know, of a lot of them. You know, so it's not, in a way, it's nice to see some of those, you know, now funnel out to people.
Why is that? You think because he had to buy whole collections?
I don't know if he bought whole collections or whatever he did, but, you know, but the point is there's an avid, he obviously bought out, you know, the Southern Clay when he spent like $36 million or whatever. They were really the two people competing for things, and then he bought the other one out.
Right. No, I mean, that's smart.
I helped with some of it, with that Southern collection for, you know, for time, you know, bidding and researching coins for them to buy, and then that was sold. So that game without, you know, basically doubled his pattern collection, because that was like 700 or 800 patterns in and of itself when he bought it. He had the Amazonian gold set, and he's got, you know, even with what Mr. Simpson has sold, what he still has is amazing, you know, is phenomenal.
Right. He still has a big collection of that stuff.
He still has over, to my knowledge, over 100 of them. Most of them, you know, obviously the entire Amazonian set. He has the gold set. And he kept an aluminum set. That was to me one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. There's basically, I think, 17 aluminum Amazonian gold patterns in existence. He owned 16 of them. Wow. The only one at one time, the only one he didn't own was the $10 one that's in the Smithsonian. All the other ones he had in his collection, you know, he still has a set of them. In fact, if you look in the Heritage catalog, they show him, you know, behind that Amazon, where you see all the gold coins. He's got a copper set and a copper gilt set and an aluminum set, and they're all in a nice picture. You know, it's an amazing collection.
Yeah, that's an incredible collection.
You have to go back to like King Farouk to get to something like that. You know, but the point is he had duplicates and triplicates. He owned every aluminum one except for, like I said, that one coin. That's that one $10 in the Smithsonian there. So yeah, basically he kept 6 of them. The rest all sold in those 8 auctions, and I guess there's going to be a 9th one in August, because there's still some more patterns there. But he's got that. He has a Stella set. He's got, you know, he has just, you know, Amazon. He's still got a schoolgirl in copper and a shield earring in copper that I know of. He's got the No Stars Long Acres from 1871. He's got a nice set of those from the half dime to the dollar. And there's more. You know, it's an incredible. He did an incredible job. It's a shame. And in a way, it's a shame it's sold. You know, it'd be nice if it was all in one place. And you know, but it never, you know, we could display it all. But you know, there are people now that do it. You know, the best collection is going to be patterns to be sold now that, you know, that they'll be taken out of the A&A.
You think it's all piecemealed, or is there one sort of a couple guys that are going after everything?
Today I don't know. there's obviously a lot of money in the market. The market's much higher than it was. I remember days you could buy, like, I liked 1877 half dollars. There was a time you can buy those for $1,000 in this, like in 1970. It cost you $1,000 or less for a nice silver one. Now they're selling for 60 grand in the Simson sales.
Yeah, high grade like that.
The times, the times are different. So obviously to collect those, to do what he did today is, it's an amazing feat. Even we've been doing he did this in the last 15 years. He collected like 1,200, 1,300 patterns. It's an amazing feat.
Yeah, at least it must have took 15 years. At least.
And it was like that. The collections that were really large were like Rudy Seeks in 1981. Obviously, the best collection. Those were all built in the 1970s, really. Wow.
So those were the guys collecting that back then in the 70s primarily, right?
Yeah, it's just him, Rogers and Fred. Julius Turoff was collecting. Like I said, you can see where he would display his dollars. But to have a collection this long, like Dr. Judd stuff sold in the early 60s, the Lennox Lore patterns were broken up, also in the early 1960s. You just don't see that. These kind of collections, this kind of volume of patterns today.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I don't know. I thought about it a lot, and then that collection coming online. I mean, I know it's presented at least opportunities for me to pick up some stuff that otherwise, you would never be able to get. And then other people in the market too. And I don't know, I feel like it reignited some interest in patterns.
It had to. It was certainly a neat part. It has some advantages. For one thing, most of the patterns are high grade. Or if you can buy coins that are basically, and afford them in the rarity 7 category, you're going to get probably a proof coin. It's going to be in a fairly nice grade. But most of the patterns were sold directly to collectors, and when they were made, they didn't circulate. Although there are some that do, but for the most part, they never circulated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, other coins like restrikes of other coins, patterns too. Coins were restruck. So those went straight to collectors. So they've always been in good hands. They're always clean for the most part.
Yeah, they've gone from collector to collector to collector throughout.
Yeah, unlike the mint errors, like I collect rejects. That's what I really call them. I collect all the rejects. The mint errors are a bit of a different story, because we had coins that, when people saw like a penny on a dime planche, they would start, cleaning them or cutting them to see if it was really silver,
Right. Like that, No, but that's a whole other world. I mean, so the errors, like as a dealer, that's the most common thing you get calls about all the time. Everyone thinks they have an error coin. And it's very hard, I think, to specialize in that. I know Mike Byers does like a lot of that stuff.
Well, and Fred's just, his coins are selling now. He's because of his retirement. The only one really active dealer on the errors is John Sullivan today.
Really?
So he's probably the most active of the error dealers today.
Do you see any new blood coming into that stuff?
What was that?
Do you see any new blood coming into this stuff? Like,
there are people collecting, because the market, the prices on Fred's coins went very well. Obviously there's there's a guy who hoards those sack mules. I know people have Fred's that went for $144,000. That's but he owns like 15 of them or something. It's a ridiculous number of them. I never know if it's good to hoard coins, but in a way, Simson hoarded some of the coins as well. Like I said, he wasn't afraid to have multiples of the rarer coins, which is very rare.
Well, sometimes you know how it is. I think that you just have to buy whole collections, and then people want to sell everything at once, and it's harder for them to give up or make a deal on one coin here, one coin there. I think they're more inclined to say, okay, well, pay me X amount for, and I'll give you.
But most people, even if they do that, if they will sell the duplicate stuff, it's like Simson didn't really. Simson kept most of his duplicates. That's the amazing thing about it. Yeah. He, obviously, he has the money to do that, but
yeah, a true collector too. Like
even like Harry Best collected gold coins. He had duplicates of very rare, or even early gold. He had duplicates of a lot of them. Wow. But that was sold in those hour sales.
It's amazing stuff. I mean,
obviously those are different collectors. I'm not even talking about him collecting by die, by die variety or whatever. He would have multiples of the same die variety.
Interesting.
Even rare coins, they get 2 1815 half eagles. Who has that today?
Right.
Things like that. That's just unheard of. In today's market to have 6-figure, 7-figure coins that you couldn't have duplicates of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like, what do you think is the strongest series of all the the pattern coins right now? I mean, is it still the Amazonian seems to be like the one that everyone goes for?
They seem to be popular, but right now the market is, I see a lot of them online. Sells. The 1877 halves seem to have sold well. I'm not seeing a lot of them on the secondary market. So whoever's buying the 1877 halves, whoever's buying those seems to be they're a popular series. And there's the collectibles, the Wash Lady sets are nice. The Shield Earring sets are nice. Seems to have fewer of those. And then the Amazonians, he seems to have duplicates and triplicates of a lot of them.
Yeah, right.
So whether the silver or the gold ones, so he Mr. Simpson obviously like that, for example. But it's to collect with regular series. It's always it's nice to have a Flying Eagle, a 56 Flying Eagle. That's not even a pattern to me. I don't even consider those a pattern because they circulated.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have one of those, or have like an 1882, Liberty nickel that matches the, no cent nickel that matches the set. It's nice to include some of those in your regular collections. There's no harm in that.
Yeah, because it's almost like another variety, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it makes things nice to have that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's certainly a better way, a way to collect this a little more interesting than just your traditional, fill in the holes.
Right.
That's one of the reasons I like the patterns and minerals. There's no holes to fill. You're not collecting to fill an album.
No, it's piece by piece, right?
Yeah. Some people collect, for patterns or something. You can collect, some people collect, nickels. Some people like dimes. Some people like, the standard silver series. This, you have to show images to people so they know what we were talking about. But like, those 1871 seated long acre patterns are very nice. Or,
yeah.
There's a gentleman who collects trade dollar patterns. Just collect them for years.
And they're still around. Like they're more active. I feel like more of those guys are on the East Coast though. Out on the West Coast, we don't have a lot of people, I don't think, collecting patterns like that.
Yeah, that I can't speak to.
Yeah, I don't see it a lot at shows. I mean, now I think there's renewed interest, and I think it's probably largely due to the Simson sale, and then people going after those coins. Do you have any experience with any of the territorial pattern stuff? I mean, I got a Clark Gruber die trial of a $2.50 gold piece struck on copper. I mean, I don't even know. Like, there's no record of ever one selling, and some of that stuff is just so rare. How do you even price something like that?
Those you go to the experts like Don Kagan and those people who are those are the people who saw that. Virgil Brand had a lot of those. So a newcomer had a lot of those too. The territorials, and right now I don't include those in any of the
Judd books. Yeah,
that's a separate. That to me is a separate area, and that's not an area of expertise for me. That's the other two. My knowledge is very narrow. I'm very narrowly focused in what I do. Or something. There are plenty of people that have far broader knowledge of the coins than I do.
Yeah, you focused on the mint patterns, right?
Yeah. Basically, once you go from 1792, pretty much 96, I didn't even pay much attention to the modern stuff where the companies were helping.
Mm-hmm. So, is there a whole series of modern patterns, or like how does that work now with the modern stuff?
They've had ones. The International Nickel Company. That was when they were looking for a placement for these silver coins. They were making clad coins. That's where you see a lot of that stuff. There's examples of Gould who was using trying to use titanium a lot, and there was a nice auction of those about a year ago that had those. It's basically the mint instead of doing a lot of the stuff on their own, but actually, as far as for alloys and coins, they parceled a lot of it out to people.
I've seen recently Mike Byers had a Buffalo nickel that was struck on a gold planchet. Is that would that be considered a pattern, or like
no? That's considered a mint. It might have been deliberately made. Somewhere out there, there's a 1915 Lincoln cent on a quarter eagle planchet that's been missing for about 50 years.
Wow.
There's that one. There's supposedly two other dates, but that one at least we can trace that one because that one shows up if you go to the Newman portal and go through B.G. Johnson's invoices, you can actually find that there.
Wow.
That one was actually offered I think to James Kelly or whatever for $200.
Interesting.
So you can actually find that one. But that would I'd love to see that. I've seen the Indian cents in gold, the 1900s, the 1905 and 6. I've seen those on quarter eagle planches. I've never seen that Lincoln cent. That's to me. I'd rather have that than a 43 copper penny, for example, or something like that. Not that I can afford it, but I'd love to see that coin.
I mean, stuff like that is still out there then, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, that one's out. That's sitting in a vault somewhere.
Wow.
I don't think anyone melted it down.
I hope not.
That's, but supposedly that's out there. It's not like a gold plated one. You'll know the difference. So it'll be small. It'll be smaller than a regular penny.
Yeah, and stuff like that builds the excitement too.
I know all the quote mint errors that are mistaken. That the pattern books had as patterns, but they're really mint errors, and I call mint errors mistaken for patterns. And I list those things like shield nickels on pennies and V nickels on pennies. All those stuff. 2 cent. There's 2 cent pieces that are on nickel, on 5 cent nickel. There's a bunch of those kind of things. Like I said, they were called root planches in the old days in the 1800s, but they're mint errors. They're not die trials.
Got it.
And most of those were deliberately made. When you see like those 1868 cased aluminum proof sets, it was a shame that the Eric Newman set was sold piecemeal. That should have been kept intact. But there's only one intact setup. His Simson on the Garrett set, and that's also been broken up. So right now there's only one of those aluminum sets like that that's intact in the case.
Wow, it's going to be it's hard to build whole sets and this stuff because it's just this stuff is still so rare, and then people have it sitting in their collections, and even with the Simson sale, I don't think it was near enough to really for people to start building serious collections yet.
No, it's also so broad. Like I said, you have to find a niche for the things you like.
Right. So if someone really is interested in wants to be active and aggressive and starting a collection of patterns, like if you had to start from scratch, I mean, what would you do? How would you approach it?
It depends. First, I ask what they collect normally, what they're interested in. If, for example, if you're a person that collects Morgan dollars, you might, and that's your niche. I would probably tell you to go collect some Morgan dollar patterns, or the patterns that were the precursors to the Morgan dollar.
Right.
Get a Judd 1550, which is basically, it looks like a Morgan dollar. The reverse, instead of having the nice olive branch, has a leaf, a 3-leaf branch on it, so it just has a slightly different reverse. Those are nice additions to that set. You want to get some copper die trials and things, fine. If you want to get some patterns around there that are, that you find neat, fine. But that's usually what I tell people to do. I find out what you like and just add a couple of patterns to it. If you're a Liberty nickel collector, get some of the 1882 and 1883 patterns to add to it.
Right.
You can get nice ones. Those are a little more affordable too. You can get a nice proof 64, 65 for a few $1,000s. If you want to go a little fancier, the aluminum ones are rare and they may cost you a little more, but you can add that too. But that's how the nicest way to collect. It's hard to collect. The pattern section itself is too broad for most people to collect. You have on some things you can never complete. So there's no unless you're
no point.
So you try to get, if you like the Amazonians, fine, but you need a big pocket for that. If you like 1877 halves and you want to collect a set of those, you need a good pocket to collect that. The wallets, they're going to cost you money, especially now after the sale. The prices, it's funny, the prices in the first Simpson sale, like those, were much lower than the last ones.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you had a smaller budget, like what patterns would you go after then? Is there still opportunities even for a smaller budget in the pattern market?
Yeah, you have the most affordable ones are there are common, like I said, you can get Indian cent patterns. The ones that most of them look like an 1858, make a nice run. Mm-hmm. Again, they're nice to add to your collection. If you're collecting Indian cents or even Flying Eagle cents, that's a nice little short one. Where you can collect, from 1856 days. You only have 3 years to collect, but there's 1854 and 1855 Flying Eagle patterns that are the size of a large cent that are neat that, you to add to them. That's really how I tell people to collect, to do things like that. It's harder to, it's very hard to collect, because of the breadth of everything in it either way. Like Wayne Wilcox collected nickel and hand die patterns, mostly nickel patterns, and since he passed, Julian Lee's been selling them, privately. But the point is, it's so hard to make a complete set. It's virtually impossible.
Yeah,
some of them are so rare. It's just very difficult.
That's
So
it.
you have to find, I tell people to collect like a typeset. You can collect, like if you like those seated long acres, because there are a lot of like Liberty seated collectors, and some people like the 1870 Barber seated coins, and they like the
Yeah, those are really nice.
1871 long acres. You can make a nice set of those. Get it, make it tight. You can make it, if you like the long acres, you can get it with or without stars, with the standard back, which is just a wreath back and an eagle. You can create a 4-piece typeset like that. It's going to cost you a little money, but it makes for a nice little set. If you like the Goloid dollars from 1878 to 1880, you can make a nice set of those. But again, the prices are starting to get prohibitive in that.
Yeah,
it's very hard for like a person who collects proof sets, for example, or something, modern stuff, to do that.
Oh no,
the prices are prohibitive.
Right.
I mean, you can try to buy circulated patterns. That's very hard, because some patterns did manage to circulate. That's always neat. Mm-hmm. But there are what I call short sets that you can buy, or try to make for completeness. If you like a specific design, you can try to get that. It's hard to do other things like, when Loy Louder was collecting colonial stuff, things, she had a nice run of Indian cent die trials in aluminum. Like, so did Simson now. Since then, but to make a set like that's so hard.
Yeah.
No, some of those only 1 or 2 known of, so you don't get the opportunity.
Would you say one of the easier ones is like to do, collect some of the patterns that the mint actually sold?
Well, that's most of those they sold 1873 trade dollars. They sold,
right.
Those standard silver sets for $9 and things like that. They're hard to collect, but there's some of them, you have a chance to make a nice run of them. A lot of people have done that. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of them. 1870 produced a lot of patterns between that and the off metals. Right. They come reeded edges and plain edges, but you can we certainly can make a nice set of them. If you like coins that there are certain things that you collect. Like I have for the seated coinage. I have for the 80s. I collect them in aluminum for the most part.
Is that what you like most? You gravitate towards the seated stuff?
I like those. I have partial sets of the 1870. Not with the standard back, with the regular eagle backs. I have a nice set of those in 1870 with stars like that. They're not complete, but I have those. I have several 1877 halves. The first pattern I bought was a Judd 1075, which was a long acre diamond copper.
Wow!
It was from the Superior's Ruby sale. Yeah, I bought that from Fred Sweeney like in the 70s. I had like $575 for it, and I sold it to MB Simons for $795.
Thus started your career.
Yeah.
In dealing, right?
The first neat pattern I had a shield ring quarter in copper that I basically traded all my other stuff for.
Wow!
And at the time and bought that, when I was young. That and funny things that became I traded that to somebody who I ended up getting an 1877 half a Judd 52. In fact, Simpson's coin just sold that sold for like $57,000, and I own that coin. And I would have basically had that. It wasn't. If I still had that, I would have had that coin for basically $2,000. Wow. And it sold for $57,000. It became an Amazonian quarter in silver, though. That got traded around. Yeah. Because someone was trying to make a set of those 1877 halves, and they needed that pattern half, so I traded with them.
See, it is good to hoard coins.
Yeah, but it's just funny how that how one coin goes around and comes around.
Yeah. It's cool to see.
The only way, unfortunately, is like I had 3 of those Goloid copper patterns, and I had 1879 and 1880 Goloid patterns in copper, like a Judd 1652, for example, and 1628. I forget what the other one was. I had like 3 of those. I traded those to buy a Judd 1505, which was an 1877 half. It's a very rare. There's only 2 known, and this coin is full red.
Wow.
Unlike the one, unlike Simpson's, which was the Bass coin, which was cleaned and retoned. They chocolatized it.
How did it come up? Did someone bring it to you, or did you buy it at an auction?
No, it was Andy Lustig had it in stock. It was in one of those teletrade auctions a while back, way back when, and I traded basically three Goloid dollars and some cash for that coin. Wow. It's been in my collection ever since. It says, basically there's 3 1877 half dollars that are in copper that are red. I own all of them. I own all 3 of them, and I just thought they were neat looking.
Does Andy still do shows and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, Andy still buys and sells patterns. He still does shows.
Wow. Are you attending shows these days or no?
I haven't attended. I've attended one Whitman show since it's back. I didn't go this year because I had surgery scheduled, so I didn't go this year. But
Right.
there's one in June. I may go to that one.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I have time off.
The one in Baltimore, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
In June. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I missed the days when there were shows in New York.
Yeah.
And I don't even basically if the show's in Baltimore, the city, or like I would go to the Philadelphia shows and have the A&A there and things like that. I would go to those, but beyond that, I don't
You don't
there aren't
travel
any shows
States.
locally enough anymore. That's just a shame that there aren't any in New York, really in the city anymore. I
Well,
know the cost is prohibitive, but it'd be nice to have an A&A show back in New York.
You go to Fun at all, or?
I went once when my mother was alive. She lived in Fort Lauderdale. And it was one year where they had instead of having the Fun show in Orlando, they had it there. I went that time.
Nice. Yeah. So you haven't been in a while then.
In fact, that year when they had the Fun, I think it was the year they had the 1866 no motto dollar was offered in the stocks Bauer sale. It was just a Bauer sale back then.
Wow.
I think it was even before they merged. But whatever year that coin was auctioned off in the Bauer sale. That was the year that they had the Fun sale in Fort Lauderdale.
That's interesting.
That was the last one I went. That was the only time I went to a Fun sale.
What do you think was like the most exciting? What do you think was the most? So like, what was the most exciting deal you ever made or purchase you ever made? Like one that really stands out. How, like, give us a story of something that really like was a big moment for you in buying a pattern coin.
It's not really that. Probably buying that 1505. I had a choice of two patterns. That one and then a Judd 1509, which looks like it's really the precursor of the dollar. It's the Morgan half dollar that has the eagle back. It looks like a silver dollar.
Oh, okay. What number is that? I'm not familiar with that coin.
But so no, it's like I said. If you go to the pattern website, you can show that and you can show that to the people as well. But it looks like it's a half dollar. It looks like a Morgan dollar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, got it.
And they don't. And the funny thing is too there's no silver ones known. So which is another interesting. The precursor of the Morgan dollar was actually based on a copper coin, not even a silver one.
Wow, interesting.
Even though there's one silver plated one known, there's no. And I'm not even sure that was silver plated then or later. But the point is, the Morgan dollar is based on a copper half dollar.
That's crazy.
So when you think about it,
it went from that to winding up on the silver.
I had basically a choice of those two coins. I took the 1505 because it was rare, and two, it was full red. So just a very neat coin.
Very nice.
It's probably from a pattern collection standpoint, probably the highlight of the patterns I own. It's probably also the most valuable one I probably own at this point.
You still have that?
Yeah.
Nice.
I've had it for over 20 years, I think.
That's awesome. Do you have an actual registry set, or are you just mainly on your U.S. pattern?
Like most of my, if you go to the website and look them up, if I pedigree the coins, they're there. I don't hide the fact that I own what I own.
Right.
Most of the patterns I own are basically rarity 7 or better.
That's awesome. Wow.
I try to share knowledge. I'm often called by Legend and Stax Bowers and Heritage. If they're auction coins, they have questions. Also, the grading services will call me if something weird comes in.
Yeah,
we'll see if I know anything about it. If it's something new.
Yeah, I mean, you're like the guy for that stuff for sure. Right? That's the thing.
It's interesting. So sometimes at least I get to at least see images of things that for the first time that very few people have seen. That's part of the neat things too. Something comes out of the woodwork.
And it keeps you on top of everything too. And like that's one of the biggest things. Like becoming an expert in something. I think if the more you see, it just like your brain. It trains your brain. Your brain absorbs like. Yeah.
Well, a lot of things I've done with the grading services first. So you need people who understand know these coins and do that.
Right.
So these days, generally speaking, they're the first persons to find something new, or someone will bring in something that
to the grading.
You see that with Bust Hasley, all of a sudden they'll attribute a coin that never was attributed before.
Right.
That's what happens for the most part.
Yeah, that's.
Like I said, I don't know if there's a lot of old time collections out there for patterns that no one's seen in a while. There's obviously a lot of patterns that are missing. Over time.
That's the crazy thing. I mean, I don't know. It's sitting there's definitely some stuff still out there sitting in people's.
Well, the most famous one of those would be the 1849 brass double eagle. No one's seen that in a long, long time.
and someone's got it.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's crazy. I don't know.
Randall bought that for $55 in 1892, and it hasn't been seen since.
It's exciting though to think about that, because there's still stuff out there that is pretty amazing. I wonder what would happen if it came to the market. I mean, obviously it would be a big deal.
I don't know if there's truly another gold one out there, but obviously if there is, that would bring the most of anything. And of course, everyone likes, the 1907 St. Gordon's, double eagle, the gold one. Has the Indian head front, that coin everyone would like to see sold at some point.
I mean, that's amazing what happened with that. I guess now they made it legal, right? And then people, the government could get a part of that now. No,
that's the 33.
Yeah, right. Okay. But on that, what did they wind up doing with that?
The government's, we know there's 14 of them. Who knows if there's more?
Wow.
Right. The Smithsonian has 2. They're sitting on 11, and there's the one Farouk one, which was sold for $19 million. It's not a pattern, but
right on the 33. Like, what's the deal with that? Does the government get a piece of that?
They got a piece of the first one, the one that the first one sold supposedly to legal. I don't know why they did that anyhow, but who knows what they'll do with the other 10?
Right.
that they took from the Swift family, and who knows if they have more of them?
Yeah. They try and take their part, right?
You never know.
Yeah, right.
There's always a market somewhere for something.
It's true.
So,
no, for sure.
Black market or whatever, who knows? But
I know. Can you imagine the black market
sitting in the vault? Who knows?
Can you imagine the black market on the internet for coins? My God, someone will probably pay Bitcoin for it, which is crazy.
The Chinese counterfeits. They've counterfeit a lot of minerals.
Yeah. That's
another.
That's a whole other thing. It's so difficult. Like the Chinese are making very good fakes now. I mean, how are the grading companies staying on top of that? Do you think they're doing a good job?
You look for patterns in the designs. Usually planchet quality is another thing that gets them.
Yeah. On the air stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that happened too. There was this guy in Florida that was, I don't know if he had some kind of mint in Europe. He was making mint errors there, reverse engineering coins and stuff, but that got caught. In the meantime, he made a lot. Part of the problem was he couldn't get good plant. He couldn't, especially for copper, he couldn't get good. Coins 2009 or 2010 coin. You think it should be on a full red planchet. He couldn't get red planchets. That's it's hard to find.
I think they're really good about that. I mean, these guys eventually get caught.
Yeah, he's still around, and he was never arrested. His name's Charles Silverstone. He never got arrested.
Really? Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. That surprises me. That really surprises me. And maybe not a lot of people bought that stuff and spent a lot of money.
No, they were on the market. The grading services, finally caught on. Like I said, if he kept it quiet, it would have been fine. When they get greedy is where they get hurt. People get greedy.
Wow.
And they start making money. Also, they get greedy. If you're a little smarter and a little, would have gotten away with it. I bought one of the first ones of those.
Did you really?
It was one of those. It was after the state quarters one. I bought one of those first ones on a penny. It was on a brown punch, but it still looked nice. And I wasn't sure when I got it. In fact, I wouldn't even pay for it until NGC slapped it. And NGC slapped it. Wow. And I paid for it. Then a few years later, you start to see a bunch of these things come out. That pattern, 2000. I forget which ones, what they were all for, what states they were. They're beyond the point of states where the territories were.
That's crazy.
So 2009 and 10, that stuff started coming out, and then they started realizing, hey, something's wrong here.
Right. Man, that's. So what is that? What is like? Did you say anything to NGC about that or no?
No, eventually they caught on. The deal was caught on was Dave Kammerer.
They dealt with it.
They start. You start seeing too many of those. Eventually, what happens is whatever coin they reverse engineered to make the dies from, eventually the marks start showing up in the same spots. That's the easiest way to check for that is if coins are truly made randomly. You're not going to have the same scratch in the same spot, same place in the coin.
Right. All coming out of the same dealer, same area. Yeah.
Right. That's the other two. Always one person seems to have them.
You're right. Exactly. That's true. They either come up on them or whatever the case.
Yeah. Today, the thing is also there's a lot of proof mint errors are coming out now.
Really?
From the 60s. Yeah. Apparently no one cared. I guess back then no one cared that the mint was making these things. We know they got smuggled out and not being confiscated. So
no, it makes sense. They probably just took them out and then
You
How
know,
they're going around.
you know, but the point is that, you know, they're not errors, but but you still, you know, to find an 18, like a 1972 Kennedy half in proof, you know, on a quarter planche, it makes no sense, or, you know, but they're there.
Right. So like,
Those really are mint products. They were made in the mint.
interesting.
But, you know,
So to collect something like that, like a real mint heir, like you think like the mint's got to really acknowledge it to sort of establish that market, right?
well, the Secret Service could have confiscated them. They don't like people taking 74 aluminum pennies.
Yeah.
Right. There's still the 74D. They confiscated whatever. There's a 74 that's been slabbed. They haven't taken that one yet. But no one's offering it any, if you notice. And eventually they'll probably grab that too. But you know, I don't know why they didn't confiscate the proof errors. I really don't.
But I guess
we have these, what I call the Martha Washington patterns, because, you know, they gave those dies up. That they don't care about. It's not really coins, but the market takes them as coins. You know, so you see, you know, Martha Washington dollars and quarters and halves and pennies, and you're making that's actually an interesting modern way to collect. Those dies, you know, they don't have any real designs that are on regular coinage, but they are, in a way, they are pattern coins. You know, they were structured for, you know, to test planchets and to test things and to test designs. So, you know, they make for a popular collection today.
So yeah, it's not even a mint heir. It's a modern pattern, essentially.
Yeah, and those are, you know, like I said, they're collectible. I don't know, they may not have been made to mint, because, like I said, they've been parceled out those dies to the companies. You know, but the point is that they're certainly collectible.
And it's circulating out there, that stuff, huh?
Yeah, they're there. Even the canceled ones are out there.
Really?
Even people collect that. That's an interesting niche too. People, they collect those. They put their coins to those canceling machines, and so people collect the Martha patterns from that too.
Graded stuff, huh?
I don't know if they grade them, but they are. But those ones that have been canceled, you know, through that upsetting machine, whatever they call it, that cancels the coin.
Mm-hmm.
They're patterns of those, the Martha Washington designs, and the people collect those too.
Wow.
It's an interesting way to play. In fact, the only ones, some of those, like I say, we did additional metallurgic trials, and they changed the Martha Washington design style like in 2010 or 12, I forget that time frame. And the only ones there's only a couple I've seen that are actually struck. I've seen a couple of canceled ones.
It's a whole other way to collect. That's interesting though. It might be that cool. That could be a really cool field for young collectors.
Someone will fill it.
Right. No, I mean, for young collectors, it seems like that would be cool, because you could probably that stuff's still readily available.
Yeah, you can get you can get them like even a Martha Washington dollar that's struck on those Sacagawea planches. You can still get those for like, you know, there are more than people think. So you can get them for $1,000, $2,000. But then they make a nice set. I still don't know anyone that has a penny, nickel, dime, quarter, half, and dollar, you know, like the whole set like that.
Like that. Well, that's true.
So it's hard, like I said, pattern collecting like that's very difficult today, you know, because the prices are prohibitive. But you know, you could do, there's sets like that. Even for people who collect mint errors, you could create a set like that. I call them pyramids. You collect like a date. Like I have what I call a 1964 pyramid. That's
interesting.
A 64 penny and a dime. Then I have the nickel on a penny and a dime. I have the quarter and a penny, nickel, and dime. And I have the half on a penny, nickel, dime, and quarter. Huh. It makes a little pyramid if you have them in slabbed holders. But you can create off metal sets like that. That's a nice way to collect mint errors too. If you like off metal coinage, you know, the people collect die caps. They collect off centers. There's a whole bunch of, you know, those are easier to collect than the pattern. Patterns are much more, you know, like I said, are much more difficult to collect.
Yeah, no, certain. Yeah. But you need the budget, the time, the expertise.
Yeah, but you definitely need the budget today. I feel sorry for today's collectors. It was easier when, like I said, when I was growing up and they were just going off the silver coins. It was a lot easier back, you know.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like in 30, 40 years from now, people are going to be saying, gosh, I should have bought them back then in 2002. Because you know, I have I have a collection of red books going back to the 60s, and I just look at some of the prices. I'm like, geez, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, they were expensive. The rare stuff, of course, was expensive even back then. You know what I mean? So I remember my grandfather saying that, those coins were expensive at the time. And you go and look at the prices now comparatively. I mean, I guess that's just inflation.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Well, I don't like. Look, there are certain collectors. You know, I don't know how the Tyrant collection is, how he collected that stuff, and You have to have that kind of like Delroy Hanson's, trying to almost create a red book of himself.
Yeah.
That's another level of collecting. Simpson too. The quality and and the breadth of the collection, even beyond the patterns, is phenomenal. It takes huge budgets, but it also takes a good eye and
time
and a good deal on timing.
Yeah, timing, and then the resources, like knowing the people, knowing where those coins are. It's just crazy. Some of the stuff. I mean, the Tyrant's collection is it's one of the most amazing collections I've ever seen. Just incredible stuff.
Yep.
Incredible coins.
And I still wonder if it's funny too. I always watched when he had the Eagle collection. It was the first thing they really put up there. That was U.S. related.
Right.
And then the 1858 proof 10 came out. I wondered if you ever bought that. It's never been. I don't know if it ever was added to the collection. He was only missing a couple of proofs to finish. The run of that too.
Everything is top choice. Even the ancient stuff he's got, it's all top quality, which are not easy to find. I mean, some of the older Persian stuff that's type like. Yeah, that 5 out of 5 surface area and the 5 out of 5 strike. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, it's beyond my pay grade. I said the patterns.
Mine too.
I'm good with U.S. rarities because I pedigree a lot. So I'm those people that's I've gone through the brand journals that are on the I physically went through them at the ANS. I've also gone through them online, Newman portal. I've gone through the Colonel Green inventories as well. When they were being offered. So they talk about time, like the time to be, if you were collecting at the time when Eliasberg was collecting was the perfect time.
Yeah, it's so true.
The brand hoard and the Colonel Green hoards were being broken up. So he was able to get a lot of the stuff that was missing at the time. But after the Clapp collection was phenomenal.
Timing's a big thing when these coins become when these coins become available. I feel like you have to act on it because otherwise. Who knows? It's going to be a long time.
Yeah, I would. I'd like to have. I would like to have had that 1822.
Yeah.
I don't know who bought it, and I don't know. I thought Hanson should have bought it. I don't know if he did, but if he did, more power to him or whoever bought it. That's to me is the one coin. It's not a particularly nice coin either. That's the other thing too. That's the biggest difference today in the market too. Wow. Is that like if you go back into the 40s, the $1804 that's in the 68 grade was offered for $5,000. The 1822 is at $14,500. Now they're $1 million apart.
Yeah.
And
I think $5,000 in the 40s that's a lot of money.
Yeah, but right there was $14,500. I think Eliasberg paid for the 1822, and Childs paid $5,000 for the 1822 and the 68 hole. But today they're what they sold $1 million apart. So.
Yeah,
and at the time they were offering when the poke sale, they were trying to get 10 million for the 1804. The other one only went to 7. The 1822. It was like a reversal, so because people more because quality trumps rarity today in the market. People would rather have like an uncirculated 69 or something, than a unique XF45 or something. It's just a weird market.
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting to see what the 1870 $3 gold piece goes for when the Bass collection finally does go off it.
It's interesting,
because that's an ugly coin.
Is it?
It's unique, but it's not a nice coin. Sorry, it's just like anything else.
If it strikes you too, like
if it wasn't an 1870, you wouldn't be interested at all. It technically should be a details grade coin if they slab it. Let's see what they do with it. That's the first mark of it's not no, because it should be a jewelry piece damaged. It's been damaged or graffitied.
Right.
Let's see if the grading service have the guts to grade it the way it should be graded.
I don't know. They probably won't.
No, but that's one of the tricks. That's one of the tricks to coins too.
Yeah.
The grading services, they're not always good with clean copper coins that have been retoned and some other things.
Yeah, well, it brings up a whole thing, the quote restoration now. So it's, what is it? Is it cleaning? Is it not? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people. I like the original stuff myself. I don't like the refurbished coins so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing. It's one of the coins at the bottom of the ocean. I can give them credit for that.
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah, I get that. On shipwreck stuff, okay, but
yeah, like King Farouk, a lot of King Farouk's copper coins were clean. They look like a copper pot.
Wow.
At the time,
I feel like that's more common in
the bottom
copper.
of your copper pot when you're cooking.
Yeah.
But then a lot of them, so they're in fact, that's one of the things I laugh about. The Judd 1505 that I have, that nice 18.5, and that's full red copper. The other coin was it basically a 60 or 61 red holder when it was sold the best because it was clean. The color wasn't original. Then they retoned it basically to a chocolate brown color, and it's in a 64 brown holder today. And it couldn't hold a candle to my coin. And it's still sold for, it's still being offered on out there for like 80 grand right now, that coin. Wow. So it's a different world.
Yeah. That's what you really got to know what you're doing. And
but I help people. Like I said, the website, if the coin's been cleaned and returned, I have it on the website. I tell people what they're buying. So that, if people are buying, they know what they're buying. I don't track the market. Awesome. Even when I put up prices realized for all the coins, so I don't really track pricing. Pricing is what it is.
Right.
Get more power to the dealer or the collector, whatever they get.
And people could find pricing on their own.
What they're in, what condition they're in today.
That's smart. That's more informative because people could find pricing on their own. I think you could look up the auction records and that's
essentially what I do with the website. I don't do beyond that. Like I said, I try to explain what it is, where it is, how many, if they're a rarity 7 or rarer coin, I try to pedigree them as much as I can. Some are just for very good, but most of the major coins are pedigreed well.
Mm-hmm. So you have to find it you have to search by Judd type number, right?
Yeah, there's also one you can search by year, and so if you have the coin 8 it's $50, you can just scan through those, and there's photo links so you can find it. Most people know if they have a $50 in their hand, there's something, and you just have to find it. It's if you're not a pattern expert, but you have the year of the coin, you can go through that year and go find them. It may take a few clicks to get there, but it takes. I take emails and calls all the time from people who have questions, and then there are dealers that'll help.
How do you keep up with all that stuff? I mean, you probably get a lot of emails, right?
Yeah, mostly from collectors. There are new people, that on occasion will email me. I had my emails on my website. They're welcome to ping me. Right. If I have an answer like that, and again, most of the grading services know where I am.
Yeah. No, that's
as well. So if somebody comes into them that they've never seen before, they'll ping me.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And if I've never seen it, I'll tell them. I try to get that's someone who's done work in a lot of patterns or is good at authenticating coins.
Right.
Julian Liedman's handled patterns for 50 years. Andy Lessig's handled for a long time.
Yeah.
Some of the people at PC that are just generally good with coins in general can do that.
Sure. Yeah. And I believe they contribute to that site, right, too?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing that on there.
No, we trust all the dealers that are, and the grading, look, these days, most of the coins do get slabs. So you get people that are good at authenticating coins, that they see something, sometimes things just don't look right. Some things they, do.
Yeah, no, I spend a lot of time, whenever I have a pattern stuff, that's a great resource for me to research. And then
first thing I always do is weigh a coin.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. When doubt, weigh it.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I could tell you this, if I got to spend a ton of money on a pattern, you'd be the first one I'd look to for advice.
Well, thanks. But,
yeah. No, that's for sure. So what's on the schedule for you? What are you doing these days? What are you up to?
Well, the coins that basically I put together photo libraries of a lot of what I like. But I haven't put. I can't. It's hard to put that up on the website because the pictures take up a lot of space. Usually I like. For the most part, the pattern site only has one of an example of a coin, but for most of the rare coins, I have images of every single one of them. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I'll send them to put them up on the Newman portal. Like one of the things I did, I put up cheat sheets for what Virgil Brand's patterns were. I have that's a cheat sheet on the Newman portal. Mm-hmm. I've gone through most of all that stuff that I could. For people that do work that in specialized areas that if it's U.S. coinage, I went through a lot of that. Well,
that's the thing too. I think you could, if some of that stuff's on there, you could just put links, right?
Yeah, right. You just do a search on my name, and all of a sudden these things will pop up.
Right.
But or you just do a search on brand, you'll find that. Like I said, I have cheat sheets on his rare gold coins and some of the highlights of his collection. I have all the early gold mark, basically what he had, what he didn't have, and that basically point back to the brand journal numbers. So in certain cases, I've done enough coins that, for 1793 cents and half cents, and there's unfortunately there's a lot of mispedigreeing of coins.
You find you have to go back and then fix some of that stuff, right?
Well, there are a lot of coins that have been attributed to brand that he never owned. In the pattern section, you never if you go in the judge book, if you look at those gold aluminum patterns, he never 1879, 1880, he never owned them.
That's interesting. So they got pedigree to them though.
Yeah, that was I don't know if Breen did that deliberately. Some people doing it deliberately. Even the heritage sale that they had an 1811 half cent that has a die break on 4 stars. It's pedigree to Virgil Brand in 1925. I couldn't find it in the brand journals. Wow. He may have owned it, but he didn't buy it in 1925.
Are all those journals on the Newman Numismatic Portal?
Yep, the entire brand. All those are on the portal. Wow. And like I said, I've gone through them by hand where you get all that. The very dry, the bindings, the powder ends up on your fingers. I did that in a day. I went through all 23 or 20 whatever volumes of that in a day.
Oh my gosh.
But when I put it on the portal, I would go through. Once it was on the portal, I could scan it, by that way. I spent, multiple days and multiple times going through that stuff.
It's a lot of work,
stuff.
Right?
Yeah. Well, stuff that Armin bought is there. I've done that for the proof coins. So I know which proof coins went to Armin, which ones went to Horace and stuff like that, because that's interesting too.
No, definitely.
The breadth, of what he had is, so I don't know I really don't know foreign coins. I don't know colonials that well, but I marked what I could, but some things, it's hard to get complete listings of too.
Yeah. Colonials are tough in general, I think.
But I fixed the pedigrees on some of the 1796, no pole, half cents, was the pedigrees that Breen had were wrong. That's what people don't realize is there are 4 encirculates. Brand owned 2 of them.
Really?
Yeah. So that's so they had some things wrong with the Earl coin and some of the other things like that. In fact, Heritage fixed that in their last one. I also had PCS fixed on the website.
Did they? Okay, so they updated.
Yeah, I've had that updated for them. I found the 1811 that Partridge had. The proof was the Parmalee brand, Dr. Hall brand coin.
So now they're showing the population.
Yes, those are the crazy things that help the dealers and stuff with having gone through that stuff. I can fix some of those things.
No, I mean it's huge for not only for dealers but for collectors, the whole coin community. I mean, it's sort of what supports this whole thing. You got to have accurate information. Like if you're going to collect this stuff and then really spend the time and the money. I mean, you gotta. The more informed you are, the better, and then having accurate information. I mean, it really helps the overall community as itself. And these are great resources. Your website
you'll see that. I fixed the pedigrees on it's the 1793 large cent, the Shana Mary that pedigree was incomplete.
Yeah. I'm going to go back and review a lot of that stuff on the website because I haven't been on in a while. Probably it's been since last year. I remember. I actually put a want list on there that I have to update.
Yep.
I don't know if it's still there.
When they get to the 1796 no pole, that's in the Jim McGuigan sale. That like I said, that's one of Brand's. That was a DeWitt Smith brand coin.
Wow.
So so those are things you learn as you go through looking through things and descriptions of coins and pedigrees. And
are you buying and selling coins at all these days?
I do buy. I didn't buy anything in the last Simson sale, obviously. I did sell some. Basically, my collection is patterns, mint errors, and I have a couple of nicely toned coins that I just bought because they were pretty.
They're pretty, yeah, just attractive.
I have a trade dollar that's the most beautifully toned coin. It's only a 64, but it's the most pretty toned trade dollar I've ever seen.
Wow.
I have a Mercury dime, a 45S that's just beautifully toned. It's not even full bands. The things I buy things like that I just find,
Do you have a registry set for that stuff? Do you showcase it online?
No, I have no intention of collecting those. For why would I do that? I don't have that kind of money, and I only bought them because they just look. They're just beautiful coins. You want nice originally toned, pretty coins. I could send you images of those.
Just popped in hand,
things like that. I only have 3 or 4 of them. I don't have. I really don't collect what I call regular issue anymore. There's no point in it for me. It's just, to me, like I like the 1913 nickel. I'd like that, but it's really the same coin with a date. Yeah. There's nothing special in it beyond that.
No, I hear you. And then that's your love. That's your focus. All these years you spent so much time. I mean, patterns
I stick to my niche.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the patterns, the rejects, the patterns and the numbers, the rejects.
Stay in your lane, as they say.
Yeah. The other stuff's too broad.
Yeah.
There's I don't like I said, I don't find like having like Lincoln Cent collection interesting anymore. Like when you're younger and you're filling, like I said, you're filling the albums, trying to get it from pocket change. It's neat, but
it's great.
No.
No.
Yeah. The only Lincoln Cents I own now are like on dime planchets or off center. Or a 55 double die. That's
the unique, the rare stuff.
I don't have the super rare in that either, but I don't have an Indian cent. I don't have a Lincoln Cent in gold.
Wow, that's
one of those things.
Not many people do.
Copper
right?
penny or 44. No, those are beyond my pay grade. But the point is that that's how I collect. I don't have. I have Jefferson nickels on dimes. And planches and penny, things like that. I don't collect any like regular. Like I'm not trying to create a full step Jefferson nickel collection.
All kinds of stuff, huh? You plan. Obviously, you plan on keeping all that stuff, right?
No, it'll get on the market eventually. I'm in my 60s already. It's not. There comes a time when where you got to pass it on to other people. That we'll see. I don't know when that time exactly is for me yet, but we'll get to that point.
You're still getting enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, but we're only custodians of the coins, unless you want to give it to a museum. The net result is I let someone else enjoy them at some point.
Definitely.
Hopefully, whatever I collected, someone will find that there's that what I have is neat enough and rare enough and and nice enough. I still try to buy nice looking stuff, but
Yeah, no, and then thus the cycle continues.
Yep. And we try to get everyone to be happy with what they have, and what we try to do is when we can is guide the current collectors to find what interests them.
That's so
and
true.
I do that when I go to shows. If I talk to people, if I'm at a table that's on that, I try to push people to buy. I don't mind helping a dealer say that's an interesting coin.
No, for sure. You don't set up though, right?
No, I'm not. No, I don't know. No, I don't have that kind of desire to be a dealer and work at that stuff. No, my collection is not that broad. You. Yeah. I can, in fact, if I can check, I can actually tell you how many patterns I own and how many inters I own. I can actually tell you that.
How do you catalog it? What do you use? Do you use Excel?
Just Excel.
Yeah, Excel.
Just Excel. I have 46 patterns in my collection today, and some of them are modern, some of them are old, some of them are electrotypes. I buy study pieces too. I have basically a 1792 set of electrotypes. I have a cent, a birch cent, a silver center cent. I have a dime. I have a quarter. No, I don't have is a half dime. I don't have that. I've never. Supposedly our electrotypes of the 1792 half dime. I've never seen one. But I collect electrotypes of things like that because I can't spend $2 million on a quarter.
Yeah,
but you can get an electrotype for a few $100s, and it makes a nice little set.
No,
like I said, I have this silver center cent. Basically is an electrotype. With a nice seam around the edges.
It's very smart.
Put the shells together, and the same with the birch cent. I have that for the dime and have it for a quarter, but I've never seen this, and I've never seen the half dime. The Judd book says they exist. The Crosby did them in the 1880s or something.
Well, there must be a mint record somewhere of it.
Well, the Mint did great. The Mint did electrotypes of their own. There are a couple of Brasher doubloons from the electrotypes from the Mint. That were, in fact, one of them was offered in one of the Stack's Bauer sales. It went for a lot of money too. They're very, the Mint. If you've got a electrotype of a Mint coin, it's very rare today. Yeah.
No,
especially for things like that, like for the Brasher, the 1792 quarter. Those are selling for a lot of money too. The high quality ones sell for a lot of money.
Oh, that wasn't was that the one that recently sold?
Yeah. Alan Weinberg had a beautiful birch scent electrotype. That's off like a 5-figure price, if I'm not mistaken. It was a beautiful coin. Even though it's a shell of 2 coins put together. Like I said, people can't collect. You can't collect. 79 2/4. They're $1 million coins. You can't collect. They're not collectible for the average person.
Sure.
But you can collect it. But you can get a nice electrotype that of some of these coins. You get them for a few $100, maybe $1,000, maybe more today than when I bought them. But they're good pieces for study, because first thing you do whenever you see old coins like that, that are supposed to have reeded edges and they're plain, is to look to see if there's a seam on the edge.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's one of the things you look for.
It's a good way to see it in person, up in hand, to know.
Yeah, you got to feel like, because there's also like trying to copy, like the shells of coins that were copied from an existing coin.
Right. Exactly.
So you have to use the host to make the shells. But I have things. I have an 1863 50 cent electrotype it's basically a Judd 341, which is one of those God Our patterns, seated liberty with God Our Trust on the the reverse instead of in God We Trust. So it's God Our Trust.
Very cool. Wow.
And it's an electrotype. I've never seen. It's an electrotype. It's got a seam. It was purchased as an electrotype. It's the only one I've ever seen of that, because the Mint doesn't even have one in their collection right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You got that?
That's not high quality. Usually the electrotype's very high quality. It was made at the Mint.
Right. Do you buy that private sale?
That also, they make high quality electrotypes of their coinage.
You get that private sale or through an auction?
No, I bought that it was in numismatic auctions, and I think they're in Michigan.
An auction. Huh.
I bought that from them. I just thought it was neat. Huh. But as far as that's all. But if you count those, I don't have a lot. Pricing's prohibitive, and for the for errors, I have basically I have in my whole collection. It's mostly off metals, and it's mostly a type collection. But I have 87 Mint errors. There are people who have more than that, and off center pennies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
much
true.
Less that. But I have what I have is like I said, is a nice off metal type set. It's not like Mark Leiterman, who's got like an 1851 double eagle on it, on a large cent planchet and things like that. That's a different realm of collecting too. Yeah. That's worth a lot of money. Those kind of coins. Or he also wants the piece dollar on a quarter planchet, things like that. Those are 6-figure items.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Or like the Morgan die caps. There's an 1886 Morgan die cap that recently sold for about $100,000. Those are phenomenal Mint errors. That's a different realm too. But you find a niche, like I said. So if you like Mint errors, I collect the wrong planchet ones, pennies on dimes, quarters on pennies, and things like that. Kennedy halves on pennies and nickels, things like that. Other people, like I said, they'll collect die caps. They have to collect off centers. They'll collect double struck coins.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing. There's something for everybody. I think if it catches your interest, boom, then that's what you're doing. The
Mint errors is a broader area, but like I said, the patterns are much more difficult to do that with. One, because they're older, and two, they're just prohibitive today. The market pricing is going way up on some of that. And again, the Simpsons collection helped there. You got a chance to collect coins. And again, more credit to Legend for helping him and being able to collect that many of them that he could sell 1,200, still have plenty left. Yeah, and it's just a magnificent collection of patterns.
You're right.
To have that many, and the quality of people, is phenomenal. That's what's nice about the patterns. At least the patterns, you're getting almost always a high grade coin.
Yeah.
So if
they're just beautiful coins.
Proof Morgan sell for $25,000, $30,000 in 67 grades or 68 grades today. Some of the patterns, Morgan patterns, less than that. You can get a Judd 1558 and 64, 65. You'll pay less than you will for a regular 1878 tail feather one in that grade.
They're just beautiful coins too. I mean, I really like the seeded patterns. Yeah. I love some of that stuff. And then with the princess head with the seeded, I mean the J1015 and
they had anything from 1870, 1871. Those Barber, I have a nice Barber set, partial Barber set of that. And I have a partial Longacre set.
I love those coins
of those, but I have them in aluminum.
That's even better, I think. It's great.
And which is interesting. There's some coins I wish existed that don't. There's, like I said, there's coins that have been missing, that haven't been on the market for a long time. One of the coins I'd like to see is there's a schoolgirl dollar in white metal or lead. I've never seen it. It was offered in the Ruby sale, and 50 years ago, it hasn't been on the market since.
Wow. I wonder who has
got that nice. It's supposed to be flaking or doing whatever it does.
God only knows who has that coin.
Yeah, but
someone does.
Yeah, because they're nice. They're there are some really neat stuff out there that, like I said, if they ever do reappear, one will shock the market, but two, that'd be nice to see.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much, Saul. Like,
Sure.
I know I won't take up so much of your time, but this is really, it's an honor and pleasure to have you on. I mean,
Well,
you're like the guy that the first person I think of when I think of patterns, and
thanks.
you've done an incredible job over the years of studying this stuff, researching, and then contributing to the coin community. So,
Well, thank you.
Guys like us are very appreciative.
It's my pleasure. I hope it helps everybody.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, thanks, and have a good one out there. Enjoy, huh?
You too. Take care.
Be good. Talk to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.